moved his gaze away from her mouth and forged a path downward, past the smooth column of her throat to her high, round breasts, then lower, settling on her great-looking legs. The woman was one alluring package. Jamal shook his head, feeling a deep surge of regret that she had obviously come to the wrong cabin. Deciding he had seen enough for one day, not sure his hormones could handle seeing much more, he moved away from the window. Opening the door, he stepped outside onto the porch. He was tempted to ask if he could have his way with her, once, maybe twice, before she left. Instead, he leaned in the doorway and inquired in a friendly yet hot and bothered voice, "May I help you?" Delaney Westmoreland jerked up her head, startled. Her heart began racing as she stared at the man standing on the porch, casually leaning in the doorway. And what a man he was. If any man could be described as beautiful, it would be him. The late afternoon sun brought out the rich caramel coloring of his skin, giving true meaning to the description of tall, dark, and handsome. Her experience was limited when it came to men, but it didn't take a rocket scientist to know this man was sexy as sin. This man would cause a girl to drool even with a dry mouth. Amazing. He was tall, probably 6'3", and was wearing a pair of European tailored trousers and an expensive-looking white shirt. To her way of thinking, he was dressed completely out of sync with his surroundings. Not that she was complaining, mind you. His hair, straight black and thick, barely touched the collar of his shirt, and dark piercing eyes that appeared alert and intelligent were trained on her, just as her gaze was trained on him. She blinked once, twice, to make sure he was real. When she was certain that he was, she forced her sanity to return and asked in a level yet slightly strained voice, "Who are you?" A moment of silence passed between them before he responded. "I should be asking you that question." He moved away from the doorway and stepped off the porch. Feeling breathless but trying like hell not to show it, Delaney kept her eyes steady as he approached. After all, he was a stranger, and there was a good chance the two of them were all alone in the middle of nowhere. She ignored the foolish part of her mind that said there's nothing worse than not taking advantage of a good-looking opportunity. Instead, she gave in to the more cautious side of her mind and said, "I'm Delaney Westmoreland, and you're trespassing on private property." The sexy as sin, make you drool man came to a stop in front of her, and when she tipped her head back to look up at him, a warm feeling coiled deep in her stomach. Up close, he was even more beautiful. "And I'm Jamal Ari Yassir. This place is owned by a good friend of mine, and I believe you're the one who's trespassing." Delaney's eyes narrowed. She wondered if he really was a friend of Reggie, as he claimed. Had her cousin forgotten he'd loaned this man the cabin when he'd offered it to her? "What's your friend's name?" "Philip Dunbar." "Philip Dunbar?" she asked, her voice dropping to a low, sexy timbre. "Yes, you know him?" She nodded. "Yes, Philip and my cousin, Reggie, were business partners at one time. Reggie is the one who offered me the use of the cabin. I'd forgotten he and Philip had joint ownership to this place." "You've been here before?" "Yes, once before. What about you?" Jamal shook his head and smiled. "This is my first visit." His smile made Delaney's breath catch in her throat, and his eyes were trained on her again, watching her closely. She didn't like being under the scope of his penetrating stare. "Do you have to stare at me like that?" she snapped. His right eyebrow went up. "I wasn't aware I was staring." "Well, you are." Her eyes narrowed at him. "And where are you from, anyway? You don't look American." His lips lifted into a grin. "I'm not. I'm from the Middle East, a small country called Tehran. Ever heard of it?" "No, but then geography wasn't my best subject. You speak our language quite well for a foreigner." He shrugged. "English was one of the subjects I was taught at an early age, and then I came to this country at 18 to attend Harvard." "You're a graduate of Harvard?" she asked. "Yes." "And what do you do for a living?" she asked, wondering if perhaps he worked in some capacity for the federal government.